Hello and welcome everyone to the GO.Live Gaming Podcast on the 10th of May 2018, like some people like to say. I'm not entirely sure why, but I'm going to say it nonetheless because it sounds cheesy. And that's always fun. We're the GO.Live Gaming Podcast, and we talk about Electronic Arts, Bioware, and Anthem. When we can't talk about Anthem, we talk about other stuff. But today we're going to talk about Anthem and Battlefield 5 for some examples that we're gonna hit on today. We're currently live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Mixer. If you don't have time to stay with us the entire show, then we will have the VOD up potentially on YouTube. I'm going to move it over to just having it released directly after the show. And that will be that. And we're also going to have the audio podcast form out on Saturday on every single place that you want to get your podcasts. If you do enjoy the show, then hit us up with a question at feedback@gunsofanthem.com. That would be amazing. And with me today, I have the notorious Wizgazero, also known as Luke.
What's going on, man? You alright?
Yeah, I'm good. How's that cough and that? Is it allergies that are annoying you, or?
It's not allergies. I've had like a mild flu, which is kind of beating my ass for a couple of days. But I'm on the mend. I'm here. You can hear me. I can speak. So,
yeah, certainly.
It's all good things when you're going to broadcast something.
yeah. Well, I was there very recently myself, and it was a pain. But yeah, you certainly sound good enough to be able to handle something like this.
Good to hear it. And it looks like also we may have confirmed the first actual real life case of an infection across the internet.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you made me sick.
Yeah. So if someone wants to do a case study on flu being infected over the web, we're prime examples here. We've already proven it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Raker, also known as Patrick, is with us today as well. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. I'm doing fine. Hello, everybody in the chats.
Oh, Patrick, you sound like a completely different man.
Yeah.
If
it's my new microphone.
Yeah. If anyone's confused about that, is that Patrick has a new microphone, so he sounds a little bit different. Almost doesn't sound like the same person anymore. That's the difference.
I have been exchanged.
Yeah. The old low quality Patrick has been upgraded to a higher quality version.
Patrick 2.0.
Yeah.
I'm out of early access.
Yeah, so basically. All right, so for this show today, we have a couple of very juicy things that I want to talk about. Now, there's some things that we can take from, mainly what we're going to talk about today is the investment call that EA did recently, and in that investment call, they talked about some interesting things about their upcoming games like Battlefield and Anthem, for example. So that is going to be the meat of it. So if you were already up to speed with the investment call, then you know what we're going to talk about today, basically. But what we're going to take from this, for example, is that some stuff about Battlefield 5 regarding single player and multiplayer and all that, and some additional stuff that wasn't an investment call but is confirmed through other sources. So that is going to be interesting, like a reveal date, for example, when we are going to know the exact theme about that Battlefield 5 is going to be. And if it's even going to be called Battlefield 5, it could be called something entirely different. Yeah, so that is going to be a thing. And we're going to talk about Anthem details. Early access Anthem. Not entirely sure if that's the term that I'm going to use when we talk about this, but it was. I read an article, or the article that we're going to take this from is from Destructoid, and that's the term they used in that. And what they mean about that, we're going to talk about in a bit. There's some other stuff going on from that call that we're going to talk about potentially. and we might have some honorable mentions at the end of the show. So, actually, I wanna just have you guys sit on the Anthem details. I mean, if anyone's listening here, since we're an Anthem-focused show, you're probably quite interested in that. But first and foremost, I want to get Battlefield 5 out of the equation. So let's move over to that first. So we have a date when Battlefield 5 is going to be revealed, and that is May 23rd. This is basically going to, or most likely going to be, some sort of trailer, some sort of teaser video, probably a teaser trailer, where we're going to see at least what kind of theme the game is going to have. Probably there's been a lot of speculation and some really credible sources saying that it's going to be Bad Company 3 and World War II. So if that's going to be the case or not, that is something that we're going to have to see on May 23rd. But yeah, I'm actually... no, you know what? We can read the statements from the investment call, and then we can have a little discussion about it. So, this is what they've said. With our next Battlefield game, the team at DICE bringing the intensity of combat to life in new and unexpected ways, said EA CEO Andrew Wilson. Every battle is unique and every mode brings its own challenges, from the way you interact with the environment around you to compelling single-player stories, sort of confirming that we're going to get these stories again, I would guess, that we had in Battlefield 1, because that was a successful format and the people seem to like that. To the next level, large-scale multiplayer that spans across multiple maps and modes. Now that sentence in and of itself is quite interesting. What that means we can discuss in a bit. This will be a deep and fully featured shooter and ongoing service that will evolve with major new experiences for our community, beginning right from launch. This game will advance the state of the art of the franchise while still delivering the signature gameplay and Battlefield moments that have captivated and grown our global community. All the things Battlefield fans expect from our multiplayer game from DICE in the Battlefield universe will be there, Wilson continued. Additional innovations in how we're thinking on the future of multiplayer in first-person shooters will be there at launch and over time as a part of a live service. So it seems like they're very much going with the whole live service thing for Battlefield 5. But yeah, let's stick to the first little thing that we got from this statement, the single-player stories. So, I don't know, Patrick, you never played the Battlefield 1, right?
Yeah, that was a question I wanted to ask. How did they do this in Battlefield 1, and what are we going to expect from Battlefield 5 then?
Yeah, so basically we had these missions that you could play individually, and you could choose and pick which one you wanted to start with. So it wasn't really a campaign, a single long campaign like the classical fashion. It was more these stories, these individual stories in different parts of the World War I battles. I guess you could say, right, Luke?
Yeah, that's right. They call them war stories. Each one is about 2 to 3 missions long, and they're self-contained stories taking place all across the field of battle. So at the start of the game, you had missions in Italy, in the Alps. You had missions in France, in the air, in Austria, and then later add-ons. You had stuff happening in Russia, for example. But the idea was to give you lots of little pieces of a wider story. So rather than focusing on battle through one person's eyes, you're seeing it from multiple people's eyes. And I think it actually worked really well. And I really do hope they carry that forward into what comes next, particularly if it's World War II. There's lots of stories that could be told there.
Yeah.
Was there maybe one battle that was shown from multiple angles? So, for example, you have here the campaign on the ground, then later maybe the Air Force that did something different at the same time, but in the same battle? Or was it really all over the...
Yeah, I think it was pretty much scattered, right?
It was scattered. Each self-contained story took part in a different theater.
Okay.
And the idea was to see the way they framed it was you saw the individual you followed, or at least a character from within that story after the war. So kind of them telling somebody about their story or reminiscing about their story, and then the missions themselves kind of serve as a flashback, and then you play the story, and then you come out of it, and you kind of have an idea of what that individual's supposed to have gone through.
Yeah.
And the reason they did that was because it's particularly within the First World War, it's not known for, participants in that particular war weren't known for their longevity.
No.
So it was quite hard to have a protracted campaign with any one individual.
Okay, and
but I think they really did it justice.
And lastly, would you guys think it would be interesting if there was maybe a part of the story where where one battle is shown from different sides, or do you think the way they did in Battlefield 1 is as it should be?
Yeah, but certainly there's like, especially in World War II, there are multiple legendary battles that would be fun to see from both sides, like both the British and the German, for example, or the Russian and the German, and all of that. There's certainly opportunities to have that. The thing is, if you show it in the same battle from two different sides, though, is that you sort of remove the opportunity to have even more stories to tell. So
no, that's not what I meant. I meant from the same side you're playing, but different angles, different platoons maybe, or different forces. Like maybe you're playing the artillery version or the tank version for a small bit, and then you're playing the air force. Like,
well, in World War One, the opportunities to do that weren't vast because it was very much about mechanized infantry, really, still infantry, pitched infantry battles, cavalry even. World War II, however, is a different story. You have much more, I think it's developed further. You have air forces, you have big navies, and you have large armies all working together in concert. So actually the idea around that would work much better in that setting. I can picture a mission where you would maybe doing the retreat from Dunkirk, for example. You could potentially see it from the advancing German side, and then you could switch to a Tommy who's escaping to the beach. Then you could switch to you could actually have a civilian who's trying to rescue this one guy and get him back across in his little putt-putt boat being attacked by a Stuka or something. You can see how that could work.
Yeah, certainly.
And see multiple angles, but World War One it'd be a bit more difficult.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea now that we're talking about it. It certainly opens up the opportunity to have more replay value in the single player campaign as well. Certainly, if you can choose, like in the beginning, all right, you have three choices now. Who do you want to play as while we push forward? And maybe when you replay, you can pick another one, and then you see a little bit of a different side of the battle. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, so imagine playing the Japanese and then having the suicide flyers, maybe, and everything else.
That would be brave.
That could be
very
kamikazes.
Yeah,
have a huge variety.
Yeah, but I can imagine that. I can see how that could possibly happen. Yeah, you got whole campaigns that the Japanese took part in that the Western forces weren't even really involved in. When they were pushing the British out, for example. And I could imagine, the Desert Rats and Rommel's army in Africa, North Africa. That would be fascinating.
Yes, there's
some of the pushes made by. Go on.
Yeah, there's multiple opportunities. I think most likely, if I'm gonna do a qualified guess here, they're probably gonna go with the same the same approach they did for Battlefield 1, because that was something that a lot of people seem to like. Like the single player campaign for Battlefield 4, for example, wasn't that. It wasn't critically acclaimed. We can say that much. But these individual stories, some of them were really good, and some of them were just good. But it made sense to make these smaller stories instead of this big campaign, where if you fail with that big campaign, well, then you failed with the entire single campaign, or creating that as a good experience. But now you can have these small individual modules sort of instead, or stories, that I think is a good concept for a game that is pretty much or yeah, it's more multiplayer focused in that sense. So yeah, it just makes more sense overall, and I'm thinking that they're going to go with the same formula this time around.
Yeah,
Very possible. One of the things I've picked up on is something that's come out of EA's, or come out of DICE, is that they don't want to ever do the same thing twice. Apparently, some big shakeups are coming to the franchise.
Yeah.
I think the single player will follow the similar format, but I reckon you might actually see some story campaign from the Axis perspective. I actually think you may well see that.
Yeah.
They already kind of toyed with that in some of the game modes in Battlefield 1. You know, the big pitched battles where you actually played as Austro-Hungarian, the Germans.
Yeah, the operations, those
in the
were kind
operations
of
mode.
yeah.
And you did get some exposition. You know, you actually got the videos when you're waiting for it to load up, which actually gave you an idea of what was happening on that side of the lines. And I think that went down really well.
Yeah, agreed.
Obviously, there's certain things that they would have to avoid. For example, I'm pretty sure you're not going to be playing as any SS units, for example. But there's plenty of other stuff around that you could potentially get involved in.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I'm actually going to be disappointed if it's not. I mean, if it's not World War II, I'll be really excited, for example, if it is Bad Company 3, or even if it is, as you suggested earlier, as a joke, 2143. But I think I would be disappointed if it wasn't World War II.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Why I made a joke as well. Had multiple layers. It was something that we discussed before the show. But in Battlefield 4, just because of the final expansion for that was sort of futuristic, people thought that it was a pointer towards a new sci-fi Battlefield game. But then we got the opposite. Basically, we got this Battlefield 1 game, and I just thought it would be a really good play on everything for them to go the totally opposite direction and go for something like Battlefield 2143. That would blow people's minds, I would think.
It would.
Yeah.
And as I said to you, it'd be a real up yours to Activision, because it'd be like them saying, right, this is how you do historical games.
Yeah.
And now this is how you do futuristic. Take notes.
Yeah, agreed.
That would be brilliant. I'd enjoy that too, to be fair.
Yeah. And something that has been stated, sort of, or, well, like Level Cap, for example, he's one of the biggest Battlefield YouTubers that is, and he's the source that I have, for example, for the reveal date for the next Battlefield game. And he said that his sources say that the game, especially the multiplayer, will be sort of revamped. It will be taking more risks and making other changes that we haven't seen before. Because basically, like Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and Battlefield 1, the base mechanics of those games are the same game. They have the same ground to stand upon. But apparently with this new Battlefield title, they're going to do something or multiple things that are going to take a step away from that. And that certainly sounds really interesting if you ask me. It might be the rumored Battle Royale Battlefield mode that we've heard about. It's a rumor, and I don't believe it, if I'm going to be totally honest. But since they've stated that they're going to do something a little bit crazy with the game, yeah, Battle Royale might fit into that picture, I guess.
I prefer if they went old school in the gun game. Do you ever play that on Counter-Strike, where you get a kill and then your weapon changes and you have to get like all the way up to knife?
Yeah,
and then win.
That was actually
that
in Battlefield. That was introduced in Battlefield 4 or late in
it was, and then for some reason they dropped it.
Yeah, but I think it's called gun mode or something in Counter-Strike. Still something that you can play in CS:GO to this date. And it's always a fun mode, so I agree that would be nice to see again.
Yeah, I also played it in Call of Duty, and I had real fun with it.
Yeah.
It's a great game mode.
It certainly is. Let's see if there was something else that we can take from that. Yeah, they're talking a lot about innovations for the Battlefield franchise, and I guess that's what we just were talking about. They're trying out things, which is it's nice. It's nice to see these companies take a risk every once in a while instead of just sticking with the laid out formula.
No, I agree. Absolutely. There are definitely ways they can tighten up the way the game flows. I think it'd be good if they took a real risk, actually, and limited the number of people that you could have in each class in any given game.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have just loads of snipers running around, or you couldn't have loads of machine gunners running around, which would be more in keeping with reality, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know if they'd do that.
Nah. Agreed. We did get some numbers also when it came to all of these games. Basically, the gist of it when it comes to platforms over EA games, that's FIFA, that's Battlefield, that's other Bioware titles and all of that, anything that is published by EA. Apparently, I was sort of baffled by this, that the console market has such a huge share compared to the PC industry. I've always been a PC guy, but I guess it makes sense in some some way. I mean, I'm so far away because I've never. It's been it's been such a long time since I sort of went out of the console world and went into the PC world instead. So for me, that's really distant to see those numbers. But
No, I mean there's way more consoles in people's houses than there are gaming PCs. Purely because if you want the good experience, often the console's the way to do it. I would say that you could have a better experience on PC, but you have to pay a lot more money to get that.
Yeah, certainly.
And that's why, which is it's a shame. I feel PC manufacturers could probably sort that out if they wanted to, but there's no reason to, is there? I guess why would you compete like that?
Yeah, and the agreed, and the numbers currently also state that the live services formulas that EA likes to talk about and work with, they are in numbers showing great profit. So for them, that concept is actually really paying off when it comes to money, and we do know that EA likes money. It's a big company. They have a lot of investors. So, but I mean, ultimately, that is positive for the gaming industry. The bigger the industry it actually is, the more innovations, the more risks some people will take, and we'll see new cool stuff. Certainly, the more money it's involved, we're gonna have these annoying things that we've talked about these last couple of weeks, with the loot boxes and all of that. But I think that is just something that we have to experience and go through in order to get on a good common ground in the end. But yeah, and EA has stated in this investor call that they're going forward with the way that they're approaching monetization currently. And but we do have the statements that we've talked about. I think it was 2 episodes ago, where they said we can't do the same mistake that we did with Battlefield 2. We simply won't, and that is at least something that says that they're not going to have loot boxes or unfair microtransactions where there's gameplay mechanics involved. That it's probably is going to lean towards more cosmetic stuff, even though that still is going to be in the future titles, because that is just so profitable for them. I mean, if they cut that out of the game, they might get some credibility and people might think that is a good publicity stunt, but when it comes to revenue, they're probably not gonna make up for it. That's just how the reality of things, I guess.
To be honest, I've often wondered. I've been giving some thought to this, and I think that the amount of money they were making off people buying their way to, paying to play to actually get further into the game, is probably very small by comparison to those doing the microtransactions for skins, and weapon skins and whatever, cosmetic things. So I think it's not really too big a blow to them to do that, and it actually it's almost a bit of what it is. It's a victory for gamers to be able to actually play a game and not worry about somebody else being able to beat you because they've got deep pockets.
Yeah, that is certainly a problem, but I don't think we're going to see. I mean, it's. I guess it's sort of a thing when it comes to FIFA, like the Ultimate Team, just how that whole thing is designed, but also. That seems to be the way people want it to be designed for some reason. I mean, I'm not. I don't play FIFA, but
No,
it's
neither.
not. It's not as big of like it didn't become Battlefront 2 when they tried to jump into the market of the more hardcore or enthusiast gamer. That was when this controversy popped up.
Yes.
So I don't know.
Well, that's it. It's because the hardcore gamer takes their gaming more seriously. They
Yeah.
don't. They like to advance through their own skill. It's good for the ego,
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas a
Certainly.
FIFA player, you can certainly become very skilled at FIFA, but at the end of the day, the game's the game. Ultimate Team is complete chance. If you want to play it, you can, but you don't have to play it. It's a game mode. So you're kind of opting into it if you decide you want to do that. And the FIFA community is really strong, and it is very well looked after. I mean, I was only seeing, was it something you were touching on the other day or earlier on, where they're actually giving some content away? Is
Yeah,
that
they had
right?
a free update last week, World Cup update. So that's great.
Yeah. So there you go. I think EA are doing everything they can that they're willing to do at least, and at least it's something.
Yeah.
It does seem positive. It seems like a positive story to me. I mean, obviously there is all the negativity still around loot boxes,
Yeah.
but at least action seems to be getting taken in some form.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but we have to keep in mind that the general FIFA community is most likely more casual than the rest of the gaming community. And hardcore gamers also care for the industry, not only for their skill. And both combined really annoys us when stuff like that happens. And I'm also interested to see, now that they say they will go forward like this, what happens when country like Belgium won't sell their games anymore because they have loot boxes in them.
Yeah, it's
They'll just remove
If
the game.
that's gonna hit them, Belgium maybe not so much because it's not that big of a country. But if it's gonna hit them, if other countries chime in and start banning them,
yeah. I mean,
What
I
you're
yeah, sorry there, Luke. Just an update from last week's conversation about this. I've given this some thought, and I feel like it would make the most sense to just keep the game as it is, like FIFA and Overwatch and all that, and just remove the ability to be able to purchase anything that is being transferable to be able to get the loot boxes, but that removes that issue. Certainly, they're gonna get less revenue from Belgium, but they don't have to redesign the game. So that was just.
but they still have to keep the skins in. If they would take them out as well in combination with the loot boxes, probably the people are not gonna buy this anymore because they just get less content. So I think they have to work then in games another system how to you get them in countries that don't have loot boxes anymore.
well, there already exist mechanisms whereby different markets get different content.
Certainly.
You get exclusive stuff in America, for example. You buy a particular game early, you'll get a skin that no one else can get anywhere else in the world. It's not unheard of. Certainly not on the scale that might happen in Belgium, but I think what's going to happen is they'll just disable those modes. Ultimate Team, you better buy FIFA, but there won't be Ultimate Team available to you in Belgium. It'll be region locked.
Yeah, but for example, Overwatch, how would you do that?
I think they're just going to remove the option to be able to buy loot boxes with real world money.
Yeah, possibly, or they'll find creative ways around it. Technically,
you mean you can still gain them through just playing, but not? Okay.
Because that was.
Or they could do things like set up the store outside of Belgium, put the servers outside of Belgium.
Yeah.
So everything's happening outside of Belgium. It's just being accessed from within Belgium, and then technically they found a loophole.
I mean that was like we have one of the major channels here in Sweden. A long time you weren't allowed to do ads for alcohol, So they put their whole station in Britain and broadcasted from there to Sweden, and now suddenly they didn't have to actually give a F about this law. So that is certainly a possibility that it might.
Yeah, because the laws that you have to follow are the ones that are in the country you're operating from.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. Although, of course, that would be negative. That would be a negative story, possibly. I'm sure EA would frame it as they're doing it for the customer. But you know.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If I were in Belgium and I liked playing Overwatch, now I very rarely, I think I purchased loot boxes like one time at one event, but that's all. But I would be pretty bummed to lose a feature that everyone else in the world has, just because of suddenly I'm losing something that everyone else has had. It's a weird, it's sort of a conundrum. Like, yeah, it's a victory that we're reducing paid loot boxes and sort of gambling features in games, but it has this backside that I don't think a lot of people have thought about thoroughly.
Well, we have to make sacrifices to move forward.
Yeah. And that sacrifice is going to be Belgium.
Sorry, Belgium.
Sorry.
Bye. Yeah. Build a wall around Belgium, and we'll make the I don't know, Luxembourgians pay for it.
Agreed. All right. I think that is going to be it for our conversation about Battlefield 5. I'm going to put that into the description of the VOD if you guys want to read the investor call, the prepared remarks from that for yourself. If I forget about it, then just leave a comment on somewhere or message me, and I'll fix it. I promise I'll fix it. I'll fix it. All right, let's jump over to the headliner of today's show, which is new Anthem details, the early access, and the release date. I can just move away from the release date as the title says. It's going to be March next year, which is the end of the fiscal year that is currently going, I think, or the yeah. I think that
2018, 2019 fiscal year,
yeah. Which exact date we're talking about? I was trying to look at other games in the past that EA has published, and certainly from Bioware and so on, to see if they have some sort of trend, if they like releasing their games in the beginning of March or at the end of March or something like that, but it doesn't seem to be a clear pattern. It seems to be pretty much all over the place. So an exact date is not something that I think I can speculate towards, but at least we know that they're going to release Anthem March next year. And also this sort of early access type thing that we're talking about, this is taken from a article over at Destructoid.com. And let's see here if I can read what is interesting. Yeah, let's go from here. As a part of a prepared statement for Electronic Arts' most recent financial report, the investor call that we talked about, CEO Andrew Wilson said, Anthem is fundamentally a social experience, and we will open new ways for fans to join the community and play early, enabling us to shape and refine the game with their input and feedback. We're deeply excited to launch this brand new franchise and equally excited to work with our players to make Anthem a game that they can't wait to play and share with their friends for years to come. So what this basically says is that they're going to open the game for the community to play early. Now, the article says like, doesn't that sound like early access? I don't really agree. It sounds like they're going to have a couple of beta testing phases, like a lot of games has nowadays. Sea of Thieves had multiple ones. Probably going to be something similar when we're talking about Anthem. And I think that is what they're moving towards. Yeah, I guess if they're it totally depends on how they sort of package this early access thing. If they have these closed betas and maybe an open beta just before launch, that is going to be sort of the classical format. If they're going towards something like maybe a couple of months before the game is released, people are going to be able to play it in a beta stage for almost the entire time up to release, then we're more talking about something that could be referred to as early access. So I think it's a definition thing, basically. Do you guys agree with me?
It's hard to tell. I mean,
Yeah.
I really hope it's not early access in the same way, like say PUBG is, because that would potentially be them kind of mugging us off. They've not got it finished, but they said it would get launched. Let's call it early access so we can get it fixed whilst people are playing it and make some money. It's a saving face exercise.
Yeah.
But if it's done in the way that Battlefield, for example, has been done since Battlefield 3, even, where they released bits of the game which people could play ahead of time, and it got data to help them set up the servers and things like that, and tweak the game and balance things. That'd be great. It's a good way of getting a bit of good footage for us, and good to start getting that hype train, really, really going. One thing you did mention that I kind of picked up on, which is slightly off topic, but not, is the fact that they want to launch it at the end of a financial year rolling into the beginning of the next means that EA as a business is putting a lot of faith in Anthem to deliver, because they want it to really bolster their money and therefore their shares throughout 2019, 2020.
Yeah, agreed.
So with that in mind, I'm hoping it's the latter explanation, and it's going to be alphas and betas to really bolster ahead of the launch date.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also in the same boat. I loved the way they did it with Overwatch, the first closed betas, and you got some videos on YouTube or Twitch, and you could get a hang of the game from seeing it, then an open beta, and everyone got to experience this. They got to test their servers, and it launched very good. If they are going the early access route, I'm really not into that plan, because I think if depending on which reason they do it for, you could use an early access type approach to break a little bit of the hype when the game is not perfectly the way it should be, so that they lower the expectations and make the reviews mean nothing, because technically the game isn't out yet. And that's a lot of things people say, you can't review a game that's not even out. And then if they lowered the expectations of the players, they just then release it. And I'm not really fond of the idea if they would do it like that. Yeah, they could also use it as an excuse. Maybe you start an early access, you think it lacks content, you get used to the game, and then it's out and it still has that little amount of content because nothing has changed.
Yeah,
but that's just me being negative.
Well, that is certainly like something that we've seen before. I mean, we didn't really have any beta phases that I'm aware of for Destiny 2, but that was like the lack of content was certainly an issue there, still is. And same with Sea of Thieves. Now we saw like with Sea of Thieves, for example, they were saying like, well, there's more coming, but when the game released, there wasn't any more of them what they showed in the betas. So, but I think also I like that approach with the closed betas and open betas and all that. I've always liked that traditional approach because I think it's nice to be able to help with the playtesting of the game. You also get to try the game to see if it's something for you, and you also get a hint towards what is this game going to be, how much content it is going to have, and all of that. So I really like that formula, and I hope they're going with something of that sort.
And another thing I wouldn't like to see if they would use the early access type, if they actually wanted you to pay for the game before the game even comes out, only to be able to join an unfinished product.
Yeah, well, that is that is not something that is uncommon practice though. Like if you pre-order the game,
sadly.
you get access to a closed beta.
That's it.
Yeah, that is certainly something that drives sales, and probably something they're going to do in this situation as well. But they usually have sign-ups for closed betas on the website, and a lucky selected few will be able to get in without actually.
That kind of thing is okay, I think. But if they would use the early access type and then charge for the game, maybe even full price just 3 months before the game comes out, that would be scummy.
Oh well, you know, early access. Even if it did come out as early access, usually it would be at a fraction of the cost of the full game, because in recognition of the fact that it is unfinished, and then your reward for putting up with it and helping them develop it is that you get the full game when it's done, without having to pay extra money. So you just get it pushed to you as an update. But like I said, I think this is a game that really needs to get it right first time.
Yeah,
I think it has to, you know.
And I mean, like from what we've heard from EA, they've stated that they're not gonna do these money grubbing schemes like they did with Battlefront 2. That's not something that they can do again, because it won't be possible for them. It would be suicide basically. They're probably just gonna bring down even more legislation and rules and law stuff down upon them if they do something like that. But there's certainly something that we can expect, is that every single opportunity that they can take in order to take your money and be able to earn some more money, that is going to be something that they will do. Like, for example, I wouldn't be surprised if you pre-order the game, then you're going to get access to the closed beta. But that's the thing. Pre-ordering overall is always going to be this thing. Like, you have to be really sure that this is something that you want to spend your money on, because pre-ordering in the concept of itself, like pre-ordering game, is basically just stupid. Like, I've done it multiple times, so I'm calling myself stupid here. So if you feel hit by this, then I mean, sorry, but I'm part of that as well. Because you're basically playing for a product that you've only seen some advertisement for. But that's the thing with a lot of things when it comes to products and games, and like pre-ordering is always going to be a huge risk. You never know what you're spending your money on.
What I don't understand is, we're in the age of the digital download. There's really no reason to pre-order. It goes live and you download it.
Yeah,
agreed. And also the ease of access to reviews and people's opinions and Metacritics and all of these other sources. Like, there's so much information that you can get a hold of when it comes to making a good decision about where you should spend your money, that it basically makes pre-ordering a stupid decision whenever you got to do it. Like,
that's why I stopped it.
Yeah.
I haven't pre-ordered a game in 5 years now, because I was burned a lot of times.
Yeah, I haven't pre-ordered since Halo 3.
Yeah, yeah. The only times that I used to pre-order before was for my YouTube channel, when I did this alone. So that was the main reason. Like, if I could pre-order the game and get into an closed beta to be able to make some content out of that, then great. But otherwise, I wouldn't do.
It's not worth it.
That makes sense. I'll let you off there then, Saj. You're not an idiot. That was shrewd business thinking.
Yeah,
EA tactical.
EA would approve.
But then again, that is something that each and every single YouTuber does. So is it really tactical? I don't know.
No,
the ones who are going to be the ones who get all the views are the ones who can release everything first, and those usually have special privileges, like press copies and whatever. So yeah, but that is.
But I need to make an honest statement. If Anthem flops, I'm gonna stop buying EA games. To be
Yeah.
honest, I bought Mass Effect 4 and was so disappointed. If I get another disappointment after also Dragon Age, I won't be buying their games anymore.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a bold statement, Patrick. You heard it here first.
Yeah. But the thing is, the statements that they're doing about Anthem currently, it might just be all PR, but like this statement, for example, every dimension of this game will offer something entirely new for a wide audience of players. From a new universe with unique stories that Bioware is creating, to cooperative gameplay, to epic and beautiful environments that constantly evolve around players. Just that is one of the statements from this investor call, and it's littered with more. And we've heard like Casey Hudson saying that it won't be like anything you've played before. That they're really trying to, at least to hype up their own game. To make it sound like it's something out of this world, or at least something that we've never played before. Now, if that is good or bad, we don't know. But they seem to be confident in their product.
The last time something was hyped this hard, it was No Man's Sky, and that was poo.
Yeah,
It was rubbish.
I hyped.
Abhorrent.
I fell for everything that
Same here.
that little elf in wolf's clothing. That is not what you say, but whatever.
Elf in wolf's clothing. It works, you know.
Yeah.
If you could fall for an elf dressed in wolf's clothing, then you probably deserve to have that game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
I hyped it too, but I didn't buy it. And I saw the reviews and it was done.
I actually waited. I didn't pre-order it or anything like that. But I waited to see what everyone was saying about it, and then I bought it and I started playing because I was like, okay, it's a sort of survival game. I'm not entirely sure if this it might just not be everybody's thing or whatever. And then I played it and I was thoroughly. That's not even a word. Thoroughly disappointed. Because it was so boring. The initial launch of that game, like, where was the graphics from the trailers? I heard actually that they had an accident where they basically lost the entire game and had to redo it from the ground up. But like the game that we saw, or that you can see in the trailers when it comes to No Man's Sky, it's so far off from what we actually got in the end, which is...
It really was.
It's weird. Like, they had the people to design the world in that trailer, but apparently those people couldn't design or show you that in the actual game. It was baffling.
They put all their effort into one planet. That's
Yeah,
probably what happened.
basically. That's
Actually, quite a good meta game. You can try and find that one planet that looks amazing.
yeah. Why not?
Imagine there was a possibility that when you generate the universe, you could get the perfect universe that's just like he explained.
Yeah.
And that's just a 0.01 possibility.
Yeah.
What
Well,
I'm saying is there's one person out there having absolutely blinding
Yeah.
time on No Man's
Yeah.
Sky.
but that is the thing about procedurally generated universes. Like, it's it's never going to be as good. You need to have it like, let's say 70% handcrafted, and then you can add those procedurally generated elements, so it creates new worlds
Yeah.
out of that handcrafted stuff in order for it to be at least decent. But they just went all out with the No Man's Sky, and
So let's hope the procedurally generated parts of Anthem are the right parts.
yeah.
Actually, I'm sure they will be.
I mean, it
Certainly.
says like the beautiful environment that constantly evolves around players. So it's certainly going to have mechanics that make the game feel alive. And that is something that I've always liked the idea of, but never liked the implementations of. So it's going to be interesting, certainly, to see if they can innovate enough to make something like that interesting.
Yeah, in case of making the world feel lived in and beautiful, there are, I think, two types. The one where it actually feels like it. There are mostly or many Nintendo games. I even would say Fortnite, just because of the maybe the football field or stuff like that makes the world much more interesting and feel lived in. But then are there other ones that I don't really understand, where they just hammer on graphical details just to the tiniest point, but you just walk right by it. Like, for example, they make an entire watch that's just lying on the table, highly detailed, and no one cares.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
agreed.
hope they take the more the first approach, where it actually feels lived in.
Yeah. Something that I really like about the statement, though, is that they're always pushing towards that it's going to be, like, for example, in the investment call, they say that it's going to be a fundamentally social experience. And that is something that certainly was lacking when it came to, like, Destiny 2, for example. I love the core mechanics of that game. I thought it was really fun. But I also really like the social aspects of games like World of Warcraft, for example. And Bungie have done every possible thing that they can in order to work against you being able to be social in that game. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of features they have in Anthem to promote social experiences and try to make positive social experiences and all that. See if they have some innovation going on there as well, because that is certainly something that I really appreciate in games like this.
At least Bungie had an honest apology from one of the developers.
Yeah, I saw that. It was something recently
was
where,
neat.
yeah, but that is not Bungie itself. That's just one developer that says, like, I'm sorry that you.
Well, it shows he cares. At
Yeah.
least he does.
He does.
He's got an eye on the future of his career when he
Yeah.
departs.
Yeah.
But you know, I want to know. I'll be interested to see how the social layer works. My biggest worry is they say, "Oh, it's going to be this great big social thing." It's like that kind of makes me worry. The cynical part of me is worrying that it's social for the sake of being social. I don't really want a giant social experience unless it's core to the game and it actually makes the game progress.
Yeah.
You know,
if they want to really make a social experience, maybe you could even give actual quests, so a system that you as a player can give quests to other people. That would be neat.
For an item that's in your inventory. So that would be cool. Imagine if there's something you need to get but you can't be asked, so you just give it away as a quest and then you come back later on and someone's got it for you.
I would always like to say trading would be great, but we already seen how this goes there. It would be just a market and you can buy the highest item instantly. Money isn't worth anything anymore. Trading really doesn't work as a social experience in video games.
Yeah.
Not unless you take it offline, where you have the ability to trade without the finance, and then you have to take it offline. You physically barter with each other for real money, and then you pass off.
Yeah.
Which you see a bit of in Warcraft, don't you? But it's, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm genuinely interested to see how it is. I'm aware that maybe 30% of what they're saying is just pure hype and it's probably rubbish. So we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I gotta say, I gotta be totally honest. To go against what like Josh says every week on the podcast, that he's not liking the concept of games as a service and he wants the single player experience back. I like the games as a service concept. Like most of the times, if it's a fair model that isn't too scheming when it comes to taking your money.
No. I do like games as a service, but I do also like my game to give me the option of playing on my own if I want to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't hate the live service, but I'm more in Josh's camp. I like my single player experiences because most of the time the social aspect isn't that huge.
Yeah.
Or you're tired and you don't want to have to deal with people. You've been dealing with people all day long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But something that is also quite interesting when we're talking about numbers from EA is that they saw a 9% drop the last fiscal year, I guess you could say, when it came to physical purchases and a 14% gain when it came to digital purchases worldwide. So it's certainly pointing towards physical purchases being less and less and less of a thing, and potentially, like, if it keeps dropping with almost 10% each year, that's going to be dead in no time.
But I tell you one thing that they need to sort out that is a bit criminal is charging price for digital download copies. Is the how I've never understood how they can get away with that. I can understand.
Well,
I can understand the monetary cost if you're buying a hard copy of something. You've got printing, plastic. You've got the making of the disc itself, distribution, selling, and then you've got the cut that the person who's selling it takes. There's a lot of money before you get your piece.
Yeah.
But if you're doing a digital download, that's basically pure profit. Why?
Yeah.
Why can't they pass on some of that saving? You know?
Agreed, but I mean, it's weird. The pricing has always been the same, but the digital purchases have gained substantially, and the physical ones have dropped substantially, and the prices remained at the same point. That is really interesting, actually. I haven't given that too much thought, but it makes sense. It would it would make more sense for them to drop the price a little bit on a digital purchase over a physical, because there's like, but I don't have the numbers though what it would actually cost to print like a CD.
No, that's fair enough. But if you just imagine, just assuming you go to a digital only model, if you knocked say 20% off, you would still sell more of it at that cheaper price, and you would make more money in total. I don't know. It just seems like they're missing a trick, but there you go.
Yeah, agreed. So a part of this conversation that we already have, one of these statements that I quite enjoy, that I think a lot of people won't enjoy because it's moving away from the classic model of gaming. But this is what they're saying. This isn't just a creative revolution, it's also a revolution of access and choice. New forms of content and consumption models and new advanced technology investments are accelerating how we will reach more players in a networked world and satisfies their unique needs. Whether you're a player or viewer of our competitive gaming experiences like FIFA, Madden, NFL, and more, becoming a must-see programming for fans around the world. With more games and content available to players today, subscription services like EA Access and Origin Access are continuing to build momentum, and we're pioneering new offerings that will expand how players can experience more of the best games. Like this, of course, you can see how they're making more ways to get your money. But they're also making more games, like, for example, EA Access and Origin Access are really good deals where you save a lot of money and get a lot of good games from that deal. So it's not all that, you know.
It's very true, and I wasn't thinking about that.
No.
You are absolutely right. There are ways where you can actually get incredibly good value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
as long as we keep both ways, it's fine. And as you said, the prices are fair. They're definitely, as long as they stay this fair, it's okay. When they charge like $30 a month, I would start to disagree.
Yeah. And something that I'm want to end this conversation on, something that I really hope from Anthem, is that when the game launches, I hope there's really so much content, and that we get sort of an expansion upon that, maybe like a year or 2 years after the game's release, sort of like World of Warcraft does their thing. Because for Destiny 2, for example, even if I wanted to pay for the first DLC or the second DLC that is coming now, those are just so close up together. Like, I don't feel comfortable paying that much money for DLCs over and over. It would make, for me, it makes more sense from a consumer perspective to have to buy something once a year or once every other year, but that means that the game itself needs to have enough in it to be able to play for that long a time, like World of Warcraft usually has.
Yeah.
That's just something that I hope is going to be there, other than this model that Destiny 2, for example, is
Yeah,
going to have.
expansions are always, I think, preferred over DLCs.
Yeah.
Yeah, more sort of the old expansion model than just DLCs. Agreed. All right, let's see here. We can just mention before we go to the last segment of the show that Burnout Revenge is now backwards compatible on Xbox One. In the Structoid article, they say that it's the best Burnout. I don't remember playing Burnout Revenge though, so I'm not entirely sure if that's the case. But just so you know, they're making even more stuff backwards compatible on Xbox One. So if you're an Xbox One user, congratulations. Even more good old stuff to play.
Thanks, Xbox. Good guy Xbox delivers again.
Yeah.
Cheers, Microsoft.
Yeah. All right, that moves us over to the last segment of the show, which is called Tell Me What to Do Until Next Week. Let's see here. Do I have a jingle? I do. I think I can get a jingle in here. Do I have? Yeah, I can use this one that I made like this. Let's play this one. Listen closely. Do you hear that? The sound of serenity. Let us take care of you now and let you know what you shall do the upcoming week. I feel so relaxed now. I need to really figure out a way for you guys to be able to hear that as well. But it's always as awkward.
It's just like
just me sitting
quiet
here.
pause where we were just looking at each other.
Yeah. But all right, the last segment of the show where we recommend what you should do until the next show will air. I'm actually going to start with Patrick. Do you have something for us?
Not much. Maybe some human fall flat, but nothing new exactly.
Yeah. It's hard to come up with new stuff each week. I certainly agree.
Maybe go outside, it's warm.
Yeah. My
Go
recommendation.
outside, enjoy the weather.
Yeah, my recommendation this week is enjoy the real world. Do not consume. Enjoy nature. Go out there.
Smell the roses.
Smell the roses. Remove your shoes and your socks and skedaddle around in the fields of green. Yes?
That could creep you real fast.
But I gotta agree with Patrick this week. I've been spending a lot of time just because the weather has been so nice. Basically, all the free time that I have, I'm spending it with my girlfriend and my kid outside. So, one thing that I can recommend though is if you haven't watched 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, you should do it now because this next season is going to be released on June 12th. No, May 12th.
Wasn't it
13th,
finished?
so.
I
No,
haven't seen it. I thought it was just a one-season thing.
I thought it was one season thing as well, but as it was as successful as it was, of course they're going to make a second season for some reason. I'm not entirely sure how that is possible since
13 more reasons why.
Yeah. But yeah, that show is, if you haven't seen it, then it's about this girl who gives her friends and family and a lot of other people's 13 reasons why she committed suicide. Kind of a grim topic. At times a really grim show, but really well produced. Sort of a well produced, little bit darker teen drama, I would say. But it's certainly something that you can watch even if you're not generally into those things. It's a great show and also a really nice show that you don't really know what the show is going until the very last episode. And I enjoy when they can play around with you like that. to keep everything, like the opportunities open, so you can't guess where it's going to go. I like that. So that's my recommendation. Luke, do you have
an idea?
Do you have an
I
idea?
have an idea. Yeah, I can recommend an anime again, Recreators. That's definitely worth watching.
All right. Well,
It's an interesting twist on the isekai genre. Isekai is being transported to another world, and this
Alright.
one is more the world is being transported into the real world, and it mixes many genres and has a very interesting plot where I can't really tell much because it's way too spoilery. But it definitely tries to mix in the shonen genre, the romance genre, even tries to mix in the magical girl genre in a very grim atmosphere.
all right. In terms of quality compared to, have you seen ReZero? It's called something.
No, sadly not.
Alright. That is
But
one.
but if you want, if you have seen Made in Abyss, or if anyone has seen Made of Abyss, that was the best anime in the last season, and this
Alright.
was the best anime in the season before that.
Alright.
Nice.
Well, that sounds
Definitely
interesting.
want to watch them.
Yeah, not something that I've heard of. I try to stay a little
Yeah, the
bit.
problem was the retitle. There is a whole entire re-genre with Re-Life and something else, and so many people wrote the show off as just another one of those
Alright.
similar shows, but it has nothing to do with the prior ones.
Interesting. Alright. Luke, do you have something?
A couple things. Yeah, the first is a book or ebook, depending on how you like to consume your literature, called Mythos. It's by Stephen Fry. It's a retelling of Greek mythology through a very whimsical and easy to follow and fun way. So I'm into history, and
Is
I
there
love
an
Stephen Fry. He's a
audiobook
bit of a
version?
bit of a national treasure. Yes, there is.
Alright,
It's
good.
called Mythos. You'll enjoy it, and it's actually read by Stephen Fry. So
Alright.
it's extra good. The other thing is the last season of Arrested Development has been re-released as a director's cut. I don't know if you guys are into Arrested Development, but the last season was a bit odd, where one episode would follow a single character for the entirety of the episode, whereas previous seasons you kind of cut backwards and forwards between all the different characters. That was done because they struggled to get them all together at the same time to actually do stuff. But what the director did was, because it wasn't received as well, he decided to spend 2 years in an editing booth recutting it all into episodes like you used to have, which the same tells the story slightly different. And it's all ahead of the new season of Arrested Development, which is coming out at the end of this month. So those are my recommendations.
For someone who hasn't seen Arrested Development, what is it in a short form?
It is about a highly dysfunctional family who can't seem to get anything right, and how their dysfunction affects each other. It's comical, basically. It's a comedy, and it makes me roll around on the floor laughing until tears come down my face, which is something sometimes you need that in your life. You know, you just need that laughter release.
Yeah, Arrested Development, I think like the first and second season, it got cancelled after that for some weird reason, even though it was a really popular show, and then I guess it was revived because of the popularity spike.
Yeah,
so,
it got rewritten. It got bought by Netflix.
Yeah. I see that it's a Netflix original now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had a lot of friends recommend this to me. I watched like the first two or three episodes, and I didn't get hooked. Might be a show that you need to stick.
Yeah,
with.
I would say the second season is better than the first, but you probably have to get about halfway through before it really starts to click. There's a lot of recurring jokes and things like that. You don't really get to know the characters properly until probably about a third of the way through the first season. So it has its failings for sure, but it's definitely worth it to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that it was. From my memory, it was, or is kind of critically praised. At least the first seasons. That was why it was such a scandal. The show actually getting canceled at first. Oh yeah,
it was.
All right, that is actually it for this show today. It was an interesting, some interesting talks here, some interesting topics, and yeah, I enjoyed my time. So thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for co-hosting this show with me this week. Let's see here.
You're most welcome.
If you enjoy the show, then please hit us up with an email at feedback@gunsandanthem.com. And as a reminder, the show will be up as a VOD after we disconnect from reality in a bit. And the podcast version will be available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and your podcast app of choice. So yeah, probably should be up on. I think we're on Stitcher as well. I mean, it's not a service that I've never ever used, but I remember sort of registering the podcast on Stitcher. So if you like using Stitcher for some reason, I think we're on there as well. But yeah, interact with us on social media as well if you want to. And that is going to be it for this week. Say goodbye.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Wave goodbye to the good folks of the interwebs.
Imagine me waving goodbye.
The kitten is waving its little paw. Goodbye.